Mike, over to you, Adrian.
Great, thank you. So I was just saying, I haven't been here in about 30 years. The last time I was here, we used to do dissection next door, and I used to get most of my lectures in here. So it's good to leave the building tonight without hands smelling of formaldehyde. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to speak tonight. My name is Adrian Crofton. I'm a general practitioner in Torry, and I'm a member of the Friends of St. Fittick's Park. We're very keen to speak tonight on the issue of justice. There are very pertinent issues of justice at the heart of our campaign. We think that the proposal itself is inherently unjust. The process by which it's progressing is unjust. And behind a lot of the tactics and statements by the developers, there are a number of attitudes and assumptions which are very unjust also. So because I'm on the graveyard shift, I'm going to stick to pictures, so no more reading words. Why do we think the park is worth saving? This is a beautiful illustration by Claire Bruce, and it basically says everything. So family time, skate park, dog walking, place to breathe, bird watching, mental health, award-winning wetlands, exercise, wildlife, vital green space, well-being, kids play, access to nature, community events, historically important. This is a cultural site. This is where Christianity came to the east of Scotland. This is St. Fittick's is the east of Scotland's St. Columba. So this is a very historical site. I don't know if anybody here never been to St. Fittick's? Okay, so I'll give you a quick tour, a guided tour. So this is the park. So we'll get your bearings. So this is the bay here, right? The Bay of Nig is just here. This is Torry up here, and this is Balnagasc, the area of Torry that's immediately adjacent to the park, most affected and threatened by the development. So you can see that the park is a sort of multi-layered, multifunctional area for the community. And it's surrounded by industry. So this is the East Tullis Industrial Estate. The incinerator, the regional incinerator is up here. There's a jet testing facility here. There's other waste processing things. This is the city sewage works. This is a railway line. And this here is a waste, a landfill tip, okay, that's been covered over, but it's still an exclosed area. So and this here, you can just see the edge of the new industrial harbour. And there's other industrial developments on the other side of Torry. So this is an area that's already ringed by a lot of industry, okay? Now this, back 70 years ago, I've got patients who tell me they used to go Tatty Rogan down here. There were farms down East Tullis Burn. But then for many years after the East Tullis industrial estate was built, there was a lot of effluent came into here. It's a very toxic waste area. And then in the early noughties, somebody had the bright idea of rewilding this space. And 2013, I think it was SEPA, 2013, 2014, SEPA and the Aberdeen Rangers, along with a lot of local volunteers and some other bodies, planted, I don't know how many thousands of plants, and they redirected the burn, planted up reed beds, and now this is just 10 years old, this space, really, as a rewilded space. And it's incredibly diverse already, and it's incredibly rich, and we'll show you some photographs in a minute. Well, I'll tell you where they want to develop in a minute, you'll see. Okay, so you're talking about asking for big turbines, 200-meter turbines, and then conceding that they'll maybe be a little bit smaller. So this is called anchoring bias. It's a pretty good tactic if you're entering into any kind of bargaining situation. You get your down first because that's the one that everybody then refers to. So when the developers put in their plan, first of all, 2020, this is ETZ Limited, said we want this, all of this, the whole park, excepting the playing fields next to the primary school here. And kind of ignoring the fact there's a burn that floods regularly going right through the middle of it. And of course, later on they conceded, oh, well, actually, we only want half the park. Oh, the park is saved. The P&J dutifully reported. But the park is very much not saved, as you'll see. Certainly not if you're living next door. So this is what they later said they wanted, just this half of the park. Okay. So this is a bird's eye view of what the Harbour Board are keen to do to this immediate area around Nig Bay. Okay, so they've already built the harbour, but they want to have harbour-related industrial development space adjacent to the harbour. So all they really want is just half the golf course, the whole of the park. They're going to cover this, I think, with solar panels is the latest plan. But you can see these are not minor asks. This is protected grassland area, Gregness, and this is wanted now for, well, I don't know exactly what it's going to be used for now, but they want it for harbour-related activities. Okay, and again, another grand plan view of the ETZ. So this is going even wider still. So we were just looking at this space here. That's St. Fittick's Park again. That's Torry. There's the Bay of Nig. Again, there's Gregness. There's the landfill site. This is East Tullos. And these are all development areas potentially for the ETZ. Okay. Now, we have nothing against an energy transition zone in principle. I think there are potentially great benefits from co-location of relevant industries. And we definitely are all advocates, I would say, of an energy transition, that's for sure. But what we say is this bit is not needed, okay? So who are ETZ? Who are we up against? Merely the Port of Aberdeen, the oldest company, I think, registered in UK. These guys, I think you may have seen these signs once or twice. Shell, BP, Scottish government. I think he's thought about lending some money, but he's swithering, but she's definitely lent a lot of money. Aberdeen Council, they occupy an unusual role here. They're both part of the applicant, but they're also judging the application. And Opportunity Northeast, which I guess you would say Wood Group have a very, Ian Wood has a very big say in that. And of course, Ian Wood was the figurehead for all of this. So what have we already lost? Well, Torry as an area has lost a huge amount of local natural amenity. And this is just the last part to go. Okay, so this is before you even think about the Hill of Tullos, where the landfill site was, and West Tullos Burn and so on. So this is the Bay of Nig just a few years ago. And you can see some oyster catchers here, breed and eat here. And generations of Aberdonians from all over the city, not just Torry, have used this as an amenity area historically. Most recently, surfers catching some good waves here. And a lot of locals would fish here and swim here regularly. Okay, and now that's gone. So what's left? So this is the old Church of St. Fittick's, medieval remains of medieval church. I think, Richard, you've got some relatives buried here from the 18th century. And it's an incredibly diverse area. So in terms of biodiversity, you've got, between here and Gregness, you've got over 200 odd species are on the list, right? There's 40 nesting species in the park alone. Of those, I think there's 8 or 9 red list species. So just in bird life alone, really, really diverse. Okay, that's a jack snipe overwintering, common toad. And we know this because people are regularly going in there ringing and netting birds. Okay, and it's a great wild space for people. Okay, it's not a manicured park. Okay? It's got lots of areas you can wander off into and get lost, but it's extremely accessible. And you get wildlife there that you just don't see elsewhere in the city. There's about 115 species of plants been listed there. And this is it in midsummer. This is the heart of the area that they're proposing to concrete over in midsummer. And you can see it's extremely accessible to the residents of Balnagasc. You can see at the background the mothership This is I was coming in a train recently and somebody said to me, "Oh, I didn't know Aberdeen had an opera house." So there you go. And this sense of nature, though, the importance of it, kids get this straight away. We asked some kids in the local primary school to draw some pictures of what they thought of health, what they thought health looked like. And this is what they came up with. And they're all pictures of greenery, of green space, basically. And families know this is local families picnicking in the park. And the council know this. The council celebrated this as a wild space, okay, as a rewilding triumph. I think they spent about 300 grand on it or so to rewild this area. Burn. And they list all the benefits here in great detail. Then suddenly they stopped talking about this. I mean, they won awards. And this is because they knew that, I think, basically there was a bid in the offing for the ETZ, well, the Harbour Board, I should say. So what do ETZ Limited want with the park? Well, this is probably the crux of their case. If you look at the planning application in principle, they more or less acknowledge that the environmental impacts are very severe. And they acknowledge also that the health impacts on the local population, which we'll talk about in a minute, are also severe. But they say there's an overwhelming case for the industrial development. And this is really being pushed. There's a kind of hysterical note behind all this. It's saying, if you don't do this, if you don't develop that little bit of park, the rest of the energy transition will fail. Now, I think that is a piece of moral blackmail, really, on the local population. If you think after 40 or 50 years in the sun, pumping oil out the sea, that our energy transition rests on 10 hectares of land next to Torry, it's a pretty poor show, isn't it? So we don't buy this at all. And if you actually ask them, what is it that's so precious about that land to an energy transition? Is there some sort of geothermal node under there that's going to heat the whole city forever? Is there 100 hectares of land that you can just spread wind turbines across? No, there's nothing like that there. If you actually ask, what is it you want the land for? I mean, if I was to say my business really relies on, say our administrators, I can tell you exactly why in detail, why if you took our administrators out, it would fail. But they cannot explain to us what it is about taking this piece of land out that will make an entire energy transition for the northeast of Scotland fail. So far, the only thing they've been able to suggest is this, that they'll build cables, I think they're called mooring systems for offshore wind turbines. Now, the first thing to say about this is you can see this is not a quiet activity. And if you're planning to do this within 100 meters or so of a residential area, now this is an area that's already severely affected by noise pollution. I have got patients who have left the area and bought flats elsewhere because of the noise pollution. Patients who complain about sleep deprivation from the building at the harbour and from harbour activities. So building a factory 100 meters away is no small thing. Now, these are pictures given by the ETZ representing what they think the visual impact would be from residential areas in Balnagask. So I think this is representing something that's maybe as high as 50 foot, 40 foot high, but I think they have scope in the plans to build as high as 25 meters. Okay, and this is the frontage equivalent to that of Marshall College, right outside your front door. Can you imagine them doing that? Proposing to do that in Victoria Park or Hazelhead or Duthie Park? Do you think the populations would accept that there? But apparently it's okay to do that in Torry. So, campaigning. Got quite a diverse campaign. We're very fortunate to have a lot of very skilled and knowledgeable people involved. And we've had a lot of support actually from media across the country and actually internationally. We also have a media campaign, social media campaign as well, Facebook and the website and so on. I'm sounding suitably vague about that, being a man of my generation. We've had protests locally. This is outside the council. This is on site. And we've had fantastic support. We've also been down to Holyrood, and we've had great support actually from people in Edinburgh who've been protesting outside the developers' offices, Ironside Farah. We've had great support from these guys. This is a climate camp. They came to Torry 2 summers ago, and they continue to support us. And this is a march through the city. And also the People's Assembly focused on pollution in general, industrial development, and St. Fittick's Park recently. We've tried to engage as much as possible with political representatives. This is Mary McCallan visiting the park with her retinue. She's the Scottish Energy Minister, I think. Yeah. So she had a tour of the park. Right, thank you, Ishbel. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that. So she's the Net Zero and Transition Minister. So we tried to also just show a positive aspect to our campaign. This is us cleaning up the park. So litter picking, we've done a number of these. And most importantly, one of the things that's missing from this planning application in principle, are any meaningful alternatives. If you're putting forward a plan, you've got, here's what we're proposing, here's the alternatives, and here's doing nothing. The only alternative to doing nothing or having the full-blown ETZ, including the park, is to have the full-blown ETZ excluding the park. But actually, what we're saying is much better plans. We've got a much better plan than their plan. Right? So ours involves retrofitting the homes locally, insulating them properly, because whatever energy source you have in the future, we're going to have to make these homes less leaky of heat. And this would provide a lot of local jobs, a lot of skills, and there are local companies that are majoring in this, already have lots of skills. We're proposing, in fact, funding for and are starting to develop an outdoor school. And we're just in the very early days of exploring the possibility of improving the water quality in the park as well. So these are proven, tried, tested, immediate benefits to local people. These are local companies involved, new skill sets, and they're necessary for transition. And these are risk-free. They're truly green, they're truly just, they're long-term investments with certain yields, and they're popular locally, and they're clean. So justice, that's what we're supposed to be speaking about, isn't it? So there's a massive gap between image and substance, as far as we can see, in the rhetoric of Scottish government and the council on issues of transition justice. So you have all these incredible plans, you know, the climate change plan, Torry is one of the regeneration zones, apparently. And we have this remarkable Fairer Scotland Duty and Just Transition Commission, which is, and many of these things are sold as being world-beating, world-leading. And whenever they use the phrase world-leading, I always get really suspicious. Somebody's a bit desperate, okay? And you're hearing that increasingly now about all of these things. It's world-beating, it's world-leading. So they're great policies, but it feels as though green protections, such as having green belt zoning, these are really paper thin. They don't really have teeth, is the problem. And I think that's something that was alluded to in the last presentation as well. Okay, so in terms of the asymmetry of power between, if you like, the developer and those who are having to face the developments. So this is a map of Aberdeen, and it shows areas by the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation. Is this something people are familiar with? Anybody not know what that is? Okay, so basically it goes through, there's 10 categories, 10 deciles, from the most wealthy, least deprived, which is here, the blue area, which is most of the west end of Aberdeen, and then the most deprived, which is dark red, which you can see here, like ask. And then there's intermediate areas here. So this whole east side of Torrey that's adjacent to St. Fittick's Park, which is here, and there's Nick Bay. This is SIMD 1. So this is the most deprived decile in the country. And health outcomes here are radically poorer than in the West End. You're looking at over 13 years difference in life expectancy, male life expectancy, which has probably increased actually since that figure was given in 2017. 25 years less healthy life expectancy. So you can expect to develop problems like COPD 25 years earlier. So big differences in health outcomes between this area and this area. So Torrey, this is a map made up by some local people showing areas around Torrey, the community here, that they consider to be either polluted or industrialized or at risk of pollution. So you've got Wellington Road here, which is a very polluted road. Increasingly with the harbour development, Victoria Road here will be used until the road over the railway is developed properly. This is the old harbour. This is the old Fittick, old Torrey, which was raised for the Shell base here. The new industrial harbour. Sorry about that. Yeah, and the other areas that are, yeah, that's okay. We talked about. So I think this map offers a better explanation of why the area is wanted so badly. So this is a map from the Harbour Board, which shows where they want to be in 2045. I call it the big switch. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the current harbour here. So Market Street would be here. This is Fittick here, okay? And here's the park and Nick Bay. And this blue area here is port-centric logistics and manufacturing. And the red area is called redeveloped land. And I'll show you in a second what they mean by redeveloped land. So this is what they're proposing for the North Harbour. So this is Fittick, and this will become a greened waterfront DESRES. So this is about property development. So the question is, where does all the old industry that was there go if you're going to develop it as nice waterfront apartments? So this is the literature that they have. This is a waterfront apartments providing opportunities for premium land values to make the best of waterfront views, transforming the area into a waterfront destination and opening up development parcels in high-value locations. Basically, they're taking the old industrial activity from the old harbour and dumping it on Torrey. So the increase in land values that you get by greening and gentrifying the North Harbour, you get the converse decrease in the value, if you think about it, of the land around St. Fittick's Park as it's industrialized. And I can tell you that because I go into people's houses and they will look out their windows in their flats at Brimham Court and they'll say, I used to be able to look out to the North Sea, it is beautiful. I used to be able to look out into Tullis Hill and there wasn't a factory there. And these things do impact on people's lives if you think about what you look out of your window onto. And these are the kind of things that have not been looked for. This is the kind of data that actually should be looked for according to the health impact assessment level that should be applied to a very significant development of this nature. And it hasn't been done. So essentially, green space is becoming a luxury commodity, something that my generation, you were brought up, you took for granted. So I'm showing you this. Well, this is Ruberslow Den South, Ruberslow Den North. This area here is 15 acres of absolutely gorgeous riparian mature wood right in the middle of Rosemount. But you can only get into it if you live here or here, exclusive access. There's no factories going in there. So back to the planning system. This is us in the planning system. I think Sue said lots about the planning system, and I can't really add to that. But other than to say that we're experiencing exactly the same thing, and I won't bore you with the details at the minute. If you have any questions, you can ask them. We've more than enough to say on it. And luckily, though, I don't know if you're familiar with Andy Whiteman's book about land ownership in Scotland. The poor had no lawyers. Well, we are lucky in that we do have some lawyers, and we are taking, the Government Law Centre is taking a case to, hopefully to the Court of Appeal on the basis of predetermination. Sounds almost biblical, does it? Yeah. All right. Theological dispute. Right, that's me. Okay, well, thank you. Okay. Is the determination bias and breach of human rights. Oh yeah, we're going for the whole lot, right? Okay. But what can I just say one last thing on the issue of justice? One very brief thing, and this is about who benefits and who doesn't benefit. The population in Torry uses, on average, half to 2/3 the amount of electricity and gas for the rest of Aberdeen on average, the average level in Aberdeen. They also use public transport in over half of journeys, which is probably about 5 times as much as the average in the city. So they are the greenest population in the city, and they're about to pay the biggest sacrifice yet again for the industrial needs of the region. So I don't think you get more unjust than that. Thanks.